In a quiet village surrounded by dry fields and dusty roads, there lived a young man known for his temper. He was not a bad person. He worked hard every day. He loved his family. He helped neighbors when needed. But he had one weakness: he became angry very quickly. If the food had less salt, he shouted. If someone disagreed with him, he argued loudly. If children played near his house, he lost patience. If someone ignored his message, his whole mood changed. He believed people were the reason for his anger. In his mind, others were careless, disrespectful, and irresponsible. He never thought that maybe the problem was not outside him. One afternoon, a small boy was running past his house. The boy accidentally knocked over a clay pot near the door. It broke into pieces. The sound was small. But the young man's reaction was loud. He rushed outside and began shouting. The boy stood frozen, shaking with fear. He kept saying sorry, but the young man did not listen. He shouted until the boy ran home crying. For a few seconds, the young man felt powerful. But that night, he could not sleep. He lay awake staring at the ceiling. The house was quiet. His wife did not speak to him. The silence felt heavy. Again and again, he remembered the boy's frightened face. His anger was gone. But the guilt remained. He whispered softly to himself, "Why do I always feel empty after shouting?" For the first time, he did not blame anyone else. He felt tired of himself. Before sunrise the next morning, he walked to the edge of the village where an old monk lived under a banyan tree. The monk was known for his calm nature. No one had ever seen him angry. The young man stood before him and said honestly, "I am tired. People make me angry. I lose control. Please teach me how to stop." The monk looked at him gently and said, "Come tomorrow at sunrise. Bring a sack of stones." The next morning, the monk said, "Every time someone says or does something that makes you angry today, pick up one stone and put it in this sack. Carry it with you all day." The young man agreed confidently. But before noon, he had already collected 3 stones. A rude reply from a shopkeeper. A neighbor speaking loudly. A small misunderstanding. By afternoon, the sack felt heavy. By evening, it hurt his shoulder. When he returned, he threw the sack down and said, "It is too heavy." The monk asked calmly, "Who filled it?" "I did." "Who carried it?" "I did." The monk nodded. When people speak, you pick up their words. You carry them in your heart. Then you complain that life feels heavy. The young man stood silent. No one forced him to carry those stones. He chose to. The next day, he tried to control himself. When a merchant spoke rudely, he stayed silent. His heart still beat fast. His hands still tightened. Inside, he was boiling. That night, he returned to the monk and said, "I stayed quiet, but inside I was burning." The monk placed a small burning coal in front of him. "Pick it up," he said. The young man did. Within seconds, he dropped it. "It burns." The monk asked, "If you throw it at someone, who burns first?" "I do," the young man answered softly. "Anger is like this," said the monk. "Even if you are right, you burn first." The young man lowered his head. "But what if someone triggers me when I am calm?" he asked. "What if I have done nothing wrong, and still they insult me?" The monk picked up a small cup. "If someone brings you a gift and you refuse to accept it, who does the gift belong to? It stays with them." In the same way, the monk said, when someone brings anger, insult, or blame, you do not have to accept it. The young man was quiet. "But it still hurts," he said. "It hurts," the monk replied gently, "because your ego wants to prove itself immediately. But remember, when someone tries to trigger you, they are testing your stability. If you react, they control you. If you stay calm and respond wisely, you control yourself. The young man listened carefully. Then he asked another question. What if someone makes a mistake, and then scolds me for it? It is clearly not my fault. Can I get angry then? The monk drew a line in the sand. If I call this line crooked, does it become crooked? No. If someone blames you wrongly, does the truth change? No. The monk nodded. Then why burn for something that is not yours? But it feels unfair, the young man said. Yes, the monk replied. It feels unfair because your ego wants immediate justice. But if you shout back, what happens? They shout louder. And then? We both become angry. The monk looked at him kindly. So now there are two fires instead of one. The young man understood. So what should I do? He asked softly. First, said the monk, let them finish. Do not interrupt their storm. A storm cannot last forever. Second, check yourself honestly. If even one part is your mistake, accept it calmly. And third, if you are not wrong, speak clearly without anger. Calm truth is stronger than loud defense. The young man nodded slowly. So feeling anger is natural, but acting on it blindly is my choice. The monk smiled. Exactly. Anger knocking at your door is natural. Inviting it inside is your decision. Days passed. The young man practiced. When someone spoke harshly, he paused. When someone blamed him wrongly, he listened first. One afternoon in the market, a man accused him loudly of damaging goods he had never touched. People gathered around. The old heat rose in his chest. But he remembered the sack of stones. He remembered the burning coal. He remembered the monk's words, if you react, they control you. He took a deep breath. I understand you are upset, he said calmly. But this was not my mistake. His voice was steady. Not weak. Not loud. The crowd grew quiet. The man looked confused. There was no fight. No shouting. That evening, the young man felt light. Not because the world had changed, but because he had remained steady. Weeks later, some young men mocked him. Look at him. The angry man is pretending to be calm. They laughed loudly. His fists tightened for a moment. But then he relaxed. He smiled gently and said, yes, I used to burn easily. Now I am learning to stay cool. His calmness ended their laughter. For the first time in his life, he felt true strength. Not the strength of shouting, but the strength of control. One evening, he sat before the monk again and said, now I understand. People do not control my anger. I choose my reaction. The monk smiled. The wind will always blow. But you can decide whether you want to be fire, or a mountain. The young man finally understood something deeply. Being right is not as important as being steady. You cannot stop people from speaking harsh words. You cannot stop unfair blame. You cannot stop mistakes. But you can stop burning yourself for them. When you react with anger, you disturb yourself. When you stay calm and respond wisely, you protect your peace. Anger feels powerful in the moment. But peace is real strength. The strongest person is not the one who shouts when blamed. It is the one who remains calm, even when not wrong. And the day you master your reaction is the day no one can control you. Ein.